Hi everybody, it's Justin Kennington with SDVoE Alliance. I'm here with one of the SDVoE Alliance's oldest and best friends, Mr. Laurent Masia, Director of Product Line Management for Netgear. Laurent, hello, welcome, thanks for joining us.
Justin, Mr. President, such an honor. Thank you so much for having me.
So, I remember a time that you and I were hanging out at ISEs and Infocoms, and there was no SDVoE Alliance. There was a chipset called Blue River. There was a managed switch product line in Netgear that nobody ever heard of.
That's right.
And we said we should do something about this. Let's find a way for Netgear to focus on the AV market. Let's find a way to make this Blue River technology bigger than it is. So of course you helped found the SDVoE Alliance with me, with our other founders. But since then Netgear has really turned a big focus onto the Pro AV market. So tell us a little bit about how we got here.
Of course, because for Netgear, officially I can say it, everything started with Semtech and Blue River and SDVoE. And we learned the basis, right? It's not only that we need good switches, we need a good software, very reliable for AV over IP operation. You know that it's the fabric now. But on top of it, we learned sometimes the hard way that the products need service and support. It's part of this solution. So with SDVoE, we developed a lot of hardware and software, and we learned how to support customers. So to your question, it's first of all outstanding. After 2 years in jail, we are now back to a show which goes over the expectations, right? I mean, it's packed and so much activity. But yes, of course, with SDVoE, Netgear had to learn how to do audio a little bit with it, to do some AVB, to do some Dante. So we went a long way, and I'm proud to say that Netgear partners, because it's strategic to us with SDVoE in the first place, but we also have a very extended group of manufacturers and providers on the show. Sure. And that just runs Netgear.
I mean, looking at it, I won't say I'm totally on the outside, but looking at it at Netgear a little bit from the outside, what I see is, especially 5, 7, 8 years ago, a big challenge to AV over IP is simply the lack of knowledge and frankly the fear in the AV integrator and designer community that I know how to use a matrix switch. AV over IP sounds good, but what if I don't understand it? What if I can't get there? So on our side, of course, we built the SDVoE Academy. We try to train people, help them understand this technology. But a strategy that I see from Netgear is, and you touched on it, is building products that really have the AV user in mind. So it's not just, a Cisco command line and you're off on your own, go, you know what to do, type the commands. You've really focused on what does the AV user need and how do you make it easy for them to access it?
Right. So I think it's threefold. It's very simple. First, I would agree sometimes that a switch is a switch, but in order to do AV, you need to make sure that the switch is certified correctly, so that it is within a solution that the SDVoE partner, manufacturer, vendor, and the Netgear sides, they agree on a set of configuration, how to troubleshoot, proof of concept, products in the lab, all that. So first, we went through extensive certification process, and yes, for SDVoE, we had to accommodate and we had to transform our software to do a good job. The second thing is that you're right, the learning curve was still high at that time. The SDVoE Academy is a very good example because it's not only about SDVoE, it's also about AV over IP and Ethernet switches. But IGMP snooping, query, quality of service, it's still cumbersome. So this direction, that's the second point. We said, well, it's not enough, okay? Because it's still prone to mistakes. You can configure it bad. So what we've done is that we came with a new way of configuring switches, which is this time another interface that speaks the AV language. So we label SDVoE, we label AES67 or Dante if you have SDVoE video with Dante audio embed the embed. And by doing so, we almost hide the complexity of all those settings because we have a certified profile to apply to a group of ports.
I think it's a great approach. You know, from a technology perspective, it's important for us, for people to understand that you don't, forgive me, you don't have to use a Netgear switch with SDVoE. It's a standard technology. It will run on anybody's switch, and practically, you know, whether it's a Cisco, an Aruba, an Arista, any of those, you can configure it to work with SDVoE, but Netgear makes it so easy. You don't have to be a certified network architect to configure the IGMP and the snooping and all that. With a Netgear switch, first of all, it probably just works out of the box in a lot of cases, and then second of all, it's so easy to say, you know, in the interface, I'm doing SDVoE, I'm doing Dante, and the switch knows how to be configured.
That is correct, Mr. President. Let me just give you three things that the Cisco and the Arubas and the Aristas and all those giant enterprise vendors just don't do.
I know where you're headed. I know. Tell us about IGMP Plus.
So IGMP Plus is one thing. Of course, they can do multi-switches installations, but when they do, they really add extra layers of complexity with routing and multicast PIM, sports mode and rendezvous points and a lot of extra things to do. So we at Netgear, we do IGMP Plus, which, you know, remain in the same VLAN, and we have a number of SDVoE installations around the world with hundreds, if not thousands of endpoints, all in the same VLAN. So IGMP Plus is one thing. Second thing, you still, you know, need to understand that with any other vendor, you will have to do very complicated things on the uplinks to configure the trunking, the link aggregation. So IGMP Plus, auto lag, auto trunk are probably the last big three reasons to go Netgear. But I forgive you.
No, but that's my point. I really do love it because, of course, you can do it, but it's complicated. I remember the discussions that you and I had 4 years ago, and my perspective was, Laurent, you know, hooking up multiple switches can get really complex. Teach me what I need to know so I can go teach the audience. And then you turned around and did the smart thing, which is, well, why don't I just put all this intelligence in the box instead?
That's right.
So I think it's great. But speaking of that intelligence and the management utility that you have, I think there's something new coming that you wanted to tell us about?
Yeah, because it was not enough. So to stay relevant in the SDVoE ecosystem, we made a big decision, and it's a preview at ISC 22 in Barcelona this week. It's going to be live in Infocom. So I'll show that to you in Las Vegas.
A short 27 days away,
All right.
But who's counting?
So this AV user interface is going to be outside of the switches moving forward, free of charge, a controller, software application, Windows, Mac, Linux. You will use it on a thumb drive, for instance. You will then be able to see and discover all your switches, and you will be then from a central location be able to access them easy with the embedded user AV interface. And we are removing this extra mile complexity of what is the IP address of that switch. How can I connect to this other switch? So we are now coming with a central configuration in a controller. And we believe that by doing that, we will make it even more reliable, because the best enemy of any AV installation is the mistake in the configuration.
It must be great for you, and I applaud it, to have seen your product line go from, let's be honest, something nobody knew Netgear made managed switches to the position that Netgear has in Pro AV today. I think everyone here has in mind that if I want to go AV over IP, if I'm in Pro AV and I need a switch, Netgear is a place that I've got to go and see what's going on.
That is right, and that's why Netgear will always remain a strategic partner of the SDVoE Alliance, because again, That's why everything has started. That's where we learned. And I'm glad to tell you that on this show, you have 150 different partners officially certified with Netgear, with a good sign on the stand, with the power by Netgear, all the Netgear switches doing AV. And you're right, it really transformed our way of going to the fully managed switch market. And to be very transparent with you, everything we do on this segment is really much to help this transition to AV over IP.
It's great. It was, to me, it was a great opportunity, and I'm so glad that a friend was able to spot it and take advantage. So congratulations, and thank you for joining us, Laurent, and thank you for watching.
Thank you.